Listen, before he go live, I gotta make sure everything tight, Rohan.
Hey. More power to the game right there.
Oh my gosh. It's great seeing y'all, man. Great seeing y'all face.
Same here.
I used to see Elder Thomas, but he ain't had no glasses on. That man had on a polo.
That's how, yeah, that's how we go.
Hey.
Hey, that's
I
not
hear
that's
you.
not a it's not a midlife crisis either.
No, it's not.
Elder Thomas is our clutch player.
No, it's not.
Oh.
All right. So, gentlemen, good night. Welcome to Fatherhood Think Tank. The weekly chat with fathers. And I was, it's funny because recently I was explaining this to someone, the concept of this show a little bit more deeper. And it was like, oh, is this a self-help group? Are you a lecturer group? Are you who's your audience and who should be listening and not be? And what I end up finding out is that, hey, our audience and what we talk about on this show is not really for us as the fathers. It's for us, but it's really for everybody to be able to hear the voices of fathers and how fathers see and think about different topics in our community. So, again, we want you to, join us, like, share, subscribe. I know that I got a request from our inbox for us to begin to put an email address, a way that people can send us letters to talk about certain things. Also, it was brought up to me, somebody said, hey, when are you guys going to let people come on and speak live to you and talk about things and different questions and what have you? And I said, well, we'll look into, that's something that we're looking into once we get the logistics for that. But all that sounds great. We have our team here tonight, fathers. Again, I'm Dr. Ron Osborne Williams, the the custodian of the fatherhood think tank, the custodian of the fatherhood think tank. I went from the cultivar to the custodian. But what I will say this, that we want to introduce these fathers that are here tonight, and then we're going to go into our topic, and I'm going to let the topic presenter, who he twists my arm about the next two topics, so this one and the next one, he came and said we really need to focus on it, so I'm gonna let him be the first person to kind of introduce the topic, and then we're going to get into that whole conversation. That being said, fathers, introduce yourself, and let's get ready to put our thinking tank hats on and have a good conversation.
Okay. Elder Thomas Alberry, married 49 years now, and am a father of two adult, male and female, as well, son and daughter, I should say, and then 7 grandkids, 5 girls and 2 boys.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Larry Jordan. Just want to say good evening, everyone. I've got 2 children and 1 grandchild, and I was told that I can no longer say gray head assassin, so I'm from now on gonna be GHA.
I mean, did you get a letter or something from somebody?
I got a request. I'm not gonna speak no name.
Oh, okay, I got you. I got you.
Got a cease and desist letter or something?
Cease and desist. We know how that was.
Yeah, Ron, we know how that go. How y'all doing? This is Brother Johnny Gaspard, married now, 5 years on a brand new marriage, happy, excited, but still going through. Father of 2 adult children. Well, they still young adults. One is 25 and the other one is gonna be 21 on the 26th in a couple of days. So excited about talking about this topic and being back amongst the brothers to share. All right.
Frederick Adams, 3 kids, 1 grandson.
Evening, gentlemen. My name is Lionel Lightborn. I'm a father to a tribe of 7 young adults, 3 young women, 3 young ladies rather, and 4 young men, and 1 granddaughter who just had a birthday on Sunday. So it's always a pleasure. Oh, and a great husband to an awesome wife. I keep leaving her out. Thank you, Johnny, for reminding me of that. You know.
Hey, Lightboy, you know you might got to go back in the thing. I think you got the tough love up there, brother.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah, Tracy.
That might be the reason that we don't want tough love to be the reason why the kids go missing. But
Yeah.
I think I accidentally put that in there. I'm sorry, brother, but I mean it's in there. If you want me to send it again, I will. So you'll be on code.
well, that might explain why I was feeling that pressure. Got the wrong background, but it's okay. I'll switch it.
All right. Is there anybody else here? If not, okay, I think that's it.
Hi.
Oh, I forgot.
Rohan.
Yes. Hi, gentlemen, on the internet world, everyone out there watching the Fatherhood Think Tank. I'm Rohan Rollock. I'm a father of 2 young ladies. Again, it's always a pleasure being with this group and learning, teaching, understanding, and making the world a better place for fathers and children.
Into that.
Wow. Okay. So I mean, with everybody speaking and talking, tonight's topic is missing children. And I'm gonna say this is that's the topic, but we know how the Fatherhood Think Tank go. that statement can go anywhere when we talk about missing children because we almost like the Google search. You can hear any aspect of how fathers is looking at the idea, what it means by missing children. And so we'll do that. But I want Rohan to start us off with this conversation about missing children because he initially came to me and he actually came to me like 3 weeks in a row. Yeah, he also seen to us, and I don't know if you guys seen in the chat groups, he has sent to us the information about kids and Amber Alerts and all these things and said, what are fathers doing about this? So I think that, it became, let's talk about what do fathers do? I mean, I know that there is sometimes this theory that the fathers are the one that make kids go missing. Sometimes they're the one, and then sometimes it's the mother who as in some cases I've been dealing with, the father's scared to give the child back, give the back after the parenting plan time because he has a feeling that the parent is gonna leave the country with the kid, and there's nothing he can really do about it. So Rohan, I'm gonna toss over to you, man. What your thoughts was about, and what's your real advocacy for missing children initially, and then I know that people will start taking this all around the world. So,
well, thank you, Ron. And the reason I brought up this topic, I go to a local food store in Broward, and every time I pass, there's a billboard, like a billboard scenario, and I see children. Most times I pass, I take a look, but I notice by looking at that board, it's always filled with kids. The board never reduce. It's always all space on the board have missing children. So I took my daughter and I said, let's take a look here. And we started to go through different children, different child, different age group, and they're missing. And they're people, we walk past them every day, including myself. And I said to myself, I wonder what fathers have to say about this. What is our thoughts regarding children that are missing? And in fact, all those children have fathers. We know that for sure. So I brought it, I mentioned it to Ron so we can delve into it tonight. There are many, obviously there's many different opinions upon that, what's happening, why it's happening, but I'm open to the floor. I want to hear what we can do and hopefully find a solution and educate some father or some mother how to prevent this from occurring in their lives.
I'll jump in. It's a very interesting topic, just from the perspective, as Ron said, we could run a whole lot of places with it. Clearly, Rohan came from the perspective of children literally missing, as in being abducted, being pulled into trafficking, just many different ways. That seems to be what when you initially looked at it, it was coming from. Like Sharon said, from the perspective of missing children, it can literally be you're not getting time to see your kids and they're missing from your life from that perspective, and you needing to work and get that right from that perspective as far as what Rohan said. A lot of times, Rohan, and I'll share this just even from my understanding, legal perspective. A lot of times, children that have been abducted, that are missing, oftentimes are children that either one comes from single parent homes, and not necessarily because of something between the parents. It could have been one of the parents died, and the other parent wasn't there to really be there for them. A lot of times they may have been children that were abused, and they feel that home isn't what it's supposed to be to protect them, so they run away. A lot of them are runaways. They're not necessarily missing. They literally ran away because the situation where they were wasn't protecting them, wasn't keeping them safe. Sometimes from the perspective, many of them are trafficked, and the children that are trafficked oftentimes come from broken homes where they may have been sexually molested or assaulted by a family member. And as a result, they run away, they get away, or they're easy targets for these type of people because they're looking for love in all the wrong places. And sometimes they run into a guy who becomes their father, for lack of a better term. And as a result, mistreats them and takes them into trafficking. So the aspect of what can fathers do is, if you are actually a father, because we have already discussed this many times on here. A lot of men produce children, they bring children into the world, but they're not necessarily fathers. So from that perspective, if you're actually a father, just being involved in your children's lives, being present for them, knowing what's going on with them. A lot of us sometimes, leave that to mom to handle, and we don't inquire as often as we should. So there's so many things that we can do as both men that are fathers of our kids today, as far as that aspect, but also in general, because there's a lot of kids out there that need our guidance as men here, that as long as we continue to put ourselves out there and are willing to reach out and talk to children and be a father figure to many of them, I think we can handle and reduce those faces on the board, Rohan. But it takes a whole lot, because there's so many various reasons why these kids are missing.
All right, that's interesting. Any other father want to chime in? Thank you. Thank you for that detail.
Well, no, that's interesting what you said, because and Johnny pretty much covered the gamut of why they may be missing, or the demographics of where they may come from, like these kids come from, right? Or the background or the backstory. But you'd have to really match the story up with the appropriate child. You're gonna have to say, okay, from age 1 to 5, which will be the one from 0 to 5, what's the backstory on that particular missing group of children? And then from 5 to 10, you may say, what's the backstory on that group of children? And then from 10 to 15, you may say, what's the backstory on that group of children? Now, yeah, there's a smorgasbord and a medley of backstories and concerns and reasons why children may be missing, and particularly those missing child posters didn't just appear on Walmart. They have a history of milk cartons. You understand? So you're going to find out the biggest population of missing children is disenfranchised children, which is just a fancy word for poor children, right? And so the bulk of missing children are poor, be across culture, white, black, stuff like that. And so when we talk about this, when you talk about systemic racism, the biggest gorilla in the room, or the biggest cause of missing children, will be classism, as not so much racism. Now, both of them have their own traumas, social and cultural traumas when it comes to missing children, and they got their own stories. In the racism part, you got children of color, or black and brown children that wouldn't get the press coverage that white children get, right?
Correct.
And so you got that dynamic. But then a poor white child wouldn't get the same press coverage, if any press coverage at all, an affluent white child would get. If that affluent white child just simply ran away, that affluent white child would have to run away numerous of times for the system to recognize that that child is a defiant child, as opposed to a missing child. But that child will get about 10 chances to disenfranchise child one, or that poor child's one chance to really, for the system to take it serious, that or give any work for that child being missing, being that isn't made. For Black children, you get any press at all. That's what made the situation in Alabama, made me furious about the situation, because I understood the level of resources that was going to be used, and it will take away from people that's really missing when the young lady faked her own, her own, missing thing. And the reason she got, and I was pissed off about that, what made me even more pissed off about it is because she's from the affluent end of the culture. You understand? She had everything, you understand, not to do that. You understand? But she exploited that time. And as a result, we had somebody in our own backyard, a young lady that still haven't been found yet.
Yes.
You understand? And so, and the people are like, well, that's just Alabama. I'm like, no, it's not Alabama. That's a nationwide thing. And so when they allocate those resources, or better yet, when they allocate that camera, let me put it like that, or that microphone, you understand? Then that person that's missing could have really used that camera time and that microphone as to that BS that she did. And I mean, I pray she get the time that she deserved. You understand? So I don't really play when it comes to this particular thing, but I do understand the dynamics that a lot of the bulk of the missing kids, I think out of all of the cultures and all the scenarios, will be foster kids. Why? Because I worked in with ChildNet, I worked with DCF, I worked with that at-risk population, and when I got the experience and the exposure of what those backstories was, and then I'm gonna be honest with you, when I got the realization of how our hands are really tied as adults, because you can say father and mother all you want, but it ain't till you try to really intervene in protecting your child from being missing is when you find out how disenfranchised you are as a parent and as an adult. I never knew how disenfranchised we were until I tried to start saving kids. And that's when I realized I had my hands tied.
Even as attorneys,
Really tired. I wouldn't put it out here because I don't want kids to be empowered in their ignorance. To saying, oh, I didn't know I could do that, so I have this power. You understand? And the thing about it again, I guess the real question should be, how do we protect disobedient or defiant kids from dysfunctional adults? Because that's exactly what happens. And they feed each other. Because a defiant kid will survive off of dysfunctional adults. That's how they stay out there so long. We all know that's factual. Even though it's off the record, but I'm like, that's factual. You can't say this 13-year-old ran away, they've been gone for a month, and they're not receiving the funding or the backing of a dysfunctional adult.
Right.
You understand? So these are this is an onion that we got to peel back, and I can't wait to start peeling.
I'm glad you brought up that about dysfunctional adults. I say to people many times, you have human beings that are over 18, right? And they're seen as adults. Well, sometimes they're grown children. They have the numbers, but they're grown children. So we could add to this equation missing parents.
I hear that. That might be a completely different topic right there, bro.
I'm just saying
you could run a whole that could be run so far, Rohan, that missing parent topic right there.
Well, it's funny that
I'm sorry, Ron, but I'm gonna to answer Rohan's point. Rohan,
yes.
What they call it, immature or what do you call it? I won't even say independent. What we call it? Dependent 18-year-olds can't support a runaway. You understand? And so you got to understand that the people who are really supporting these runaways have the means to support the runaways. An 18-year-old staying with his mama can't support a runaway. You understand? Sure. But a 24-year-old or 25-year-old that has their own place, you understand, and can give that person a place to crash or even rent them a hotel room until they finish using them, can do it. And most of the people are, and now you're gonna love this, Ron, because here goes where it gets deeper and better. Most of the dysfunctional adults that support these kids are the most high functioning adults in society. That's a fact.
That's a fact.
And so we want to talk about this. Oh yeah, we're gonna talk.
That's right.
Oh yeah, we're not gonna be blaming no disenfranchised 18-year-olds because this is not the multi-billion-dollar industry that's supporting these runaways and the human and sex trafficking. So we're gonna talk. Let's talk. Let's talk about it.
Yeah. All right.
Ryan, you gonna say something?
Oh, I was on a show this morning in New York, talking, New York radio show, and we was talking about, this, what's happening with the kids, and it just into the conversation what we're talking about, how, are we protecting our kids? And that's the conversation, because the conversation was talking about the youth that are going all into all of these stores and snatching things out of the stores and doing these bum rushing and this and that.
Mhm.
And the question, the point I was making is, one of the issues is that because many of those children, we're looking at them, they're going to be criminalized. They're being criminalized in reference to this, but are we looking at for the reason why they're doing this? Are we really evaluating why they're doing this? They're doing it because they live in a society right now that says social media dictates who and what you are, how good you are, how pleasant you are, whatever. And they're not getting that equal balance from their parents with love, self-worth, so their self-worth is like, oh, let's go rob some Birkin bags from out of Dillard's, because that will make us feel good. We put them on the camera and we'll feel like, oh, we achieve, we have some ethics. We have our ethics, not have some ethics. We have our ethics. We have our fame. We have our, when parents a lot of times have to just take a 2 steps back and do some discipline. We're not talking about punishment. We're talking about teaching and guiding our kids what we want them to be, not telling them what we want them to be, but teaching and guiding them what we want to be. And the big, I think the harder part about that is it's hard to say be when I'm not being. It's hard to, when you don't show the model of it, it's hard for them to say, oh, well, you telling me not to smoke this weed when y'all was smoking weed. And when y'all was in that room, you and Mr. Charlie was in that room smoking weed. How you gonna tell me not to smoke weed? And so you look at those kind of things, and we begin. And then you know what? And let me come to. I just want to say this because it fell into that conversation I was having this morning about protecting our children and how important this is. And this goes in this conversation. And we have to really start advocating for our children, if they are children or not our children, in ways that's important. I'm working at a school right now and subbing while I'm waiting on job thing to go, this job that I'm processing that I'm in. And the rule at the school is that you cannot wear hoodies. You cannot wear hoodies in the school, on the school. You can wear a hoodie, but you can't have the hood up, right? And I noticed that in the class I was in, the majority of the people who have the hoodies on are who? Young black men, young black males, and all of them have them on. They have the hoodies on, like on there, and they always have them on. And I just posed a question to those guys. I said, what's the rule? What do you think the justification for the rule of why the school doesn't want you to wear hoodies? And they said, well, when you have a hoodie on, they can't see who you are, what have. And I said, well, that's interesting because that means they're looking at hoodies to be criminalized. It's like hoodie is a criminal object. Like a hoodie is something that means that if you got a hoodie on, you got it all the way on. This means that you want to do something. You don't want people to know who you are. And I said, let me ask you guys this: how many of you guys maybe wear the hoodie so you can hide? And listen, if you see these young brothers look me in the face, and then one of the young brothers came to me afterward and had a conversation. He said, yeah, because I don't want all this attention. I feel like when I put the hood on, I can just get away and be into myself. I don't. And listen, this ain't no BS. Like, I know people be like, oh, the kid conning you. He telling you, no, this is serious conversation we having. And And what I realized is it is almost a safety net. It is like the lino blanket that a lot
Right.
of our young men are holding with these hoodies because they want to almost become invisible. They want to disappear,
Wow.
almost become missing, because I think we live in a society where they understand for them, and we don't understand as older men, that being seen makes you a target, not just from our own people, but from everybody else. You are always being looked at as some. So if you could just put your hood on, your cloak, and just disappear and go into a place, you wouldn't have that kind of anxiety. And that's just that's something to think about. You know, when we're talking about this idea of missing children, because I think that's why some of our children may be missing, is because we're not really spending the time to ask them, why are you doing that, instead of criminalizing them for doing things. You know, you getting in trouble because you got your hood on. Take the hood off. The hood, what you got the hood on? And I mean, it's hot. Remember, it was hot outside. It's but they had his hood on, and most of the time when we approach them about it, our people approach them, it's in a negative. It's never a positive of how this hood is helping you or being resourceful to you, and that it can be a positive thing for who you are and what you got going on. So that happened today, and when these things happen, that's why I love being a substitute, because you know, once you get up in the world and you don't be going to class and this, you can lose all of this real down to earth dealing with the people stuff that many people are not even thinking about. I just realized that hoods is criminalized. You know, we know it is, because guess what? Why did Trayvon Martin die? Because he had a hoodie on.
Yep.
Yep.
Trayvon Martin, I won't say that's the only reason, but the main reason the person could say what he said because they had a hoodie on. But Trayvon had a hoodie on because he didn't want nobody to see him while he was talking to his girl walking his ass home. See, this the part we didn't. This the part we didn't get out of this.
Yeah.
We didn't talk about how he wanted to be separated from the world. He wanted to actually just go unseen,
Unnoticed. Yeah.
unnoticed for what he was doing, because it is a fear for us to be noticed in this
Okay.
society.
Ron, let me ask you a question, because this is a bigger question that you just bringing up. Why in the hell we got to explain our freedom of expression?
Listen,
My damn civil rights. You know what I'm saying? And I'm like, first of all, I'm like, maybe we explain too damn much. And I'm like, first of all, I'm gonna exert my right to do what I need to do. You understand? And if I think what you're saying is racist, then you need to call their ass racist on the spot.
Mm-hmm.
And guess what? Then we have to. I think we got to do a lot more paper protesting than we're doing anything else. I'm like, listen, I ain't got time to raise hell. I'm just go ahead and raise a petition. That's people. You know what I'm saying? And when I raise that petition, then we'll figure out how you do it. Then we'll take that, because I'm like, listen, you're a principal. You just the help. I take it to the school board. I cite it as racist, and then we'll go from there. But black people seem like the only time guys really, brother, oh, you got a freedom of expression. Use it, partner. We're not sitting here around here. I'm like, first of all, I ain't asking you for nothing. The Constitution guarantees it. Why would I need to ask you for something that I have a right to?
Right.
So this is, I'm like, first of all, this is not even an ask. This is a demand. You understand? And that's the problem. I think we ask where we really should be demanding. And so I'm like, man, my kids got it right. And my job as an adult, and particularly as a black adult, to make sure you're not violating their constitutional right way before I commit to what you're doing in this school, in this class.
Right. Absolutely.
And then guess what? And their constitutional right supersedes whatever rules you got in that classroom. So you better make sure you're not violating the constitutional right when you're making your rules. That's all I'm saying.
Well, let me share y'all something. Okay, so I've shared with you guys before that I do have a small private school in Miami Gardens, right? Most of our kids come from situations where they've been kicked out of public schools, have various issues, things of that nature. So last school year, I allowed many of our students, our male students, to wear their hair, how can I say, like they stuck their hand in the electrical socket and their hair just looked like that, right? So I allowed them to do that. They call it plaits.
Wicks.
Wicks, all that. I call it a hot mess, right? So I understand for some of them, it is expressing themselves through their hair. But I understand we live in a society, Brother Lightburn, that judges us as Black, especially our young men, on the way we look. So we don't even get a chance to express our intelligence as you just have in a petition, because we are judged by the way we look before we even open our mouths. So I said to several of our parents, hey, I'm not having wicks this year. If your son or daughter, if your son wants to have them in his hair, I want the dreads to be neat. You need, or the plaits to be neat. You could cornrow it to his scalp. You can braid it to his scalp, but I don't want the thing looking like he got shot and stuck his hand in the electric socket.
Mm-hmm.
One parent said to me, I think you're being discriminatory.
Mm-hmm.
You are judging my child. I said, no, I'm not judging a child. Society is. And I understand what Lightborn is saying. All these rights that we are entitled to have, our freedom of expression, our freedom of, all of those things. The problem is that doesn't stop you when you go apply for the job, when you're walking down the street. The police officers don't say, oh, that looks like a young man expressing himself. He has the right to freedom of expression with the hoodie on or with his hair looking like that. No, he said, Black male, crazy looking haircut. He fit the description. Pulls you over, and now you got to explain to yourself, because I literally saw this the other day in Miami Gardens. I'm driving by McDonald's, and this cop had these kids hemmed up. He checking them, searching them. Next thing you know, he lets them go. And I'm saying to myself, well, what could have happened that he felt the need to do all of that? But we live in this country and this society that even with the hoodies, and I get what Ron is saying, because many of them do want to disappear. The problem is the hoodie has been used by many others to commit crimes in those hoodies. So the system has correlated hoodie wearing in 100-degree temperature as you intended to commit a crime. That's your plan, because you got on hoodies in 100-degree temperature. Now you got on that hoodie during the cold season, I might give you the benefit of the doubt because it's cold outside. But during 100-degree summertime, why do you have on a hoodie? Because he gonna rob somebody.
Well, I mean, let me say that, and I'm going to be very clear about this. Is I think it becomes conditional, and I'll tell you what I mean. All the kids come to the school and have on hoodies. You know why? Because the air conditioning is so goddamn high. And they learn to say, I'm going to wear this for my comfortability. But I think I love what Lightborn is saying, and this is what my problem was with this whole thing is, have anybody had a focus group with the kids about why they did it or what they're doing? Are you just saying the district said no hoods because we think that hoods have some? Now I seen some stuff around the school personally, being here from South Florida and being up there. I see some stuff that's going around the school that's a lot more closer to Stoneless Douglas type of stuff, right? That they don't seem to even care about because it might be who doing it. Now that's just my might be my bias, but I see things happen there that look Stoneless Douglas. But I don't see that being the center of. Now the idea of everything they're doing is based on, let's keep it 100. Everything being done is based on Stoneless Douglas. They believe that, young Black people get in fights. Somehow there's going to be a gun at the school and there's going to be a shooting because some young Black. I'm willing to stake and bet that the percentages of students who are getting in fights with each other and guns coming out and people being mass shot at schools is very low. Like almost non-existent.
You mean in our schools? Predominantly Black schools?
And Black schools are absolutely not at all. I don't think it happens at all in Black schools because Black schools are almost like prisons to have to go to. But I'm saying, so the idea of being so concerned about somebody coming and doing a mass shooting at a school is not. Why would that be a concern when you're focusing it all on a certain group of students? In my mind, but not the ones that would do it. They can walk out, walk in. The girl would tell me, I'm gonna leave, go to lunch, come back in school, blah, blah, blah. And I'm thinking, I mean, I watched the dude in my class first thing in the morning. You know, they took all the kids' book bags because you got to have a book bag that's see-through.
Right.
Yeah.
This joker walk into class with a black book bag, combat boots on. So I say, hey man, how you get in here with this bag? Oh, I came at 10 o'clock. So that's enough to prove my point right there. Y'all ain't checking for Stone's Douglas behavior. So what y'all checking for? But hey, I digress. Let's get back to the missing kids.
Yeah, right.
You know what our problem is as Black adults?
Tell me, Lightbird, tell me.
Black men, particularly as Black adults. You know what our problem is?
What's that, Lightbird?
We so focused on what they think, they never get to know what the hell we think. And we condition ourselves.
He was gonna go there.
Notice and I'm gonna tell you something, and all of y'all are guilty of it. And me too. I noticed you said everybody said what they think. What the hell do you think? You have a right.
I think you look like a hot mess too. That's what I think. But go ahead.
You understand? And so because you do have a human right to think, I'm like, man, I demand that right to think. Let me put it like this. There's a lot of things that I don't give a damn what job I'm on. You can't do around me. Just as my right as a human being. You just couldn't. And if I saw it's wrong, I don't give a damn if I'm in the church or the courthouse. And the churches of the courthouse will tell you that, like, nah, that Negro's a different type of Negro. You understand? Because I understand, number one, my rights, not my rights as an American citizen, my rights as a human being, as a human citizen. Gotcha. And so I'm like, whoa, boy, when Martin Luther King said, listen, if a man can't find something to die for, he's not fit to live. That's a peaceful man coming out of a peaceful man mouth. Now, what are we ready to die for? We talk about, oh, we care about our kids. What the hell you really care about? You care about your career. You care about, it sounds like we care about how they see us. You understand? And I'm like, man, they've been seeing you the same for years and still killing you. So something got to change. And I'm like, they say, what they call a closed mouth don't get fed.
Right.
But that must explain why we starving as a culture. And I'm like, but guess what? Don't do it around me. Don't violate their right around me. Don't even violate nobody's human rights around me, because I'm going to bring it to your attention. I have a right to bring it to your attention. I remember there's a time coming from the streets and all that stuff like that, and the rough community. I remember it was a time that I would have died for less. I'm like, you got to understand who I am. You know what I'm saying? There was a time I would have died for less. That's when I didn't care. Now that I care, that's magnified 100 times more. What do you really think you can take from me? That's what makes you a dangerous individual. And if you're going to be dangerous for the things you care about. That's all I'm saying.
That makes sense. That makes sense. LJ.
I just wanted to just say something real quick. And I understand and I respect everything that y'all said. I'm a focused, success-driven guy. And I tell you what I mean by that.
I can use that.
I don't care how you come in, what you wear, how you wear it. If you getting A's on those tests, you good. You can have your hair like you want it. You can have your hoodie on your head. The problem is you got the hoodies on your head and you getting F's on the test and said you want to be by yourself. Now there's something wrong with that picture. We need to understand that when you're in a certain place, what is your purpose to be there? Now the purpose in school is to learn. Now, we all have different learning styles. I get that. So if your learning style says, listen, I have to be lying on the floor with my two legs in the air, okay? And you getting A's, you continue to do that, my brother. You know, as long as you can get it. I think we lose focus, though, more on what people are doing than the results of what we're getting. The fact of the matter is, our kids are not graduating from school. The fact of the matter is that when we do graduate, a lot of times you can't even read on the 9th grade level. When I was taking the teacher's exam, the biggest problem, and we're talking about teachers, people that are going to teach your kids, they couldn't get past a 9th grade math test. And that held them back. Now, there's an issue with that. There's a problem with that. You know, but we're losing focus we're losing focus on what we're doing, how we're doing. Whereas one thing about the old days, they wanted you to dress a certain way. They wanted you to do those things. But the main thing is, if you didn't bring them grades home, it's gonna be a problem.
Correct.
And it's always gonna be a problem. Now,
I 100% agree with you, LJ. And like Bert, I do agree with y'all. I'm about that aspect as well. But I also understand that when you have an environment and you have rules and you have structure, it helps in that learning process. When you have a kid that's laying down on the floor because that's the way he learns, with his feet up on the table, but the other kids don't learn because they're distracted by him sitting with his feet up on a table and they're wondering why he could put his feet up, but I can't. We have a problem. So
I get that.
That's my thing. That I get we learn differently, but I think we miss the aspect of structure and guidance and direction, which is what my focus is when I talk to our kids about how they're here is. It's not me saying I need you to look a certain way. I just need you to understand there's some rules and there's some discipline and some structure that sometimes many of them do not have at home, and they end up missing because there's no rules, because they're allowed to just do what they want to do and be where they want to be. We all remember that night light on the street come on and you not home, we gonna have a problem. Today, just make it home safely, son. I just want you to be home. What? He out there till 9, 10 o'clock, and with his friends, he finally scrolling the house at 10:30, and you just happy he home? What kind of craziness is that? At least that's where I come from and how I was raised. So I think that the structure and the guidelines that many of our children don't have, unfortunately, in our community today, is unfortunately what is allowing them to end up coming back to the point, missing. Because we are missing them because we're not giving them any guidance, direction, and structure. And they in turn, because we are missing them, because they're doing what they want to do, end up becoming victims, sadly, to a society and a country that in various ways don't have a problem with them missing. Whether they end up missing in the jailhouse, missing from our communities as dead young men in the graveyard, or missing from our families as fathers and sons because we're unavailable for whatever reason. All of those things are missing. And I
agree
just
with
think
that.
our movement away from structure and guidance has forced our community, especially young Black men, to end up with more of us in prison with our fathers. And as a result of that, those missing men lead to missing children. And that's where we are today. At least that's my bald-headed opinion.
I have to agree with what Gaspar's saying.
Oh, J. Rob, go ahead.
Hey, I agree with Gaspar because when you think back about appearance, right? Appearance plays on your psychological, right? There are certain things that play to your psychology that which builds self-esteem. A lot of times when you're looking at someone and you're asking them why they do what they're doing, they're like, I don't know. It's just they want to use that self-expression as a cop-out. Because you want to express yourself, but are you really building yourself with the way you're expressing yourself? I remember back in the day when I had hair, when I had my fro, it was picked out, it was nice and coiffed. You had your clothes laid out. You had your what do you call that? That crease in your jeans when you're walking out. You know what I'm saying? And you held your head up high. And it's not because white people were looking at me. It's because I was looking at myself. And I was stepping tall. So you see, it kind of gets lost when you allow your kids to not take pride in themselves. And when they start to really take pride in themselves and they appreciate themselves, it changes the way they think about themselves. It allows them to reevaluate who they are, who they're hanging with, and what they want to do in life. Because once you start to evaluate and change, you start leaving some people behind and start reaching out to other people. There's some people that you never let go, right? But then there's some people who have to be let go. And when you start to discern the people that you want to be around and the people that are really that truly impact your life in a way that you feel is positive, it just makes you a more well-rounded person. You start to, and when you think about it, when you're in school and that kid that's failing is probably hanging around with other kids who are like him, but the kids who are passing are hanging out with the kids who are passing. And never in time in class, they want to mix the kid that's failing and let them sit by the kid that's passing. And that would change the influence on the kids' lives. You know, sometimes you got to introduce them to different social circles to give them a well-rounded experience. And until we start to look at changing the way they view themselves, the way they view society, and forget how society views them, because it's all about changing yourself first before anyone can tell you that you're wrong.
Good point.
You know, let me say this, and as we're having this conversation, and I see that we went from the missing exploited kids into the idea context of our kids missing generally in the society. And I think that's a really good way we're going. But now I'm going to come back to what is a solution to this missing. Listen, kids first model the person that they want to be like, the person they want to dress like, the person they want to do everything like is their parents. Most of the time, boys want to be like their father. They want to wear the clothes like their father. Their father wear a uniform, 9 times out of 10, they're gonna end up wearing a uniform because they know what that uniform is. And so when we start talking about how do we, how do we solve this problem, one of the things is for us as fathers to recognize and share with other fathers that, hey, your son and daughter learns from you. They learn. Listen, even if you're not around, if they get hearing it on the mountain about you, they're going to learn to be what you are based on what they heard on the mountain. They can be in present, or you can be out on the mountain. They're going to say, "Well, my dad is this. I don't have to be. My dad is this, so I don't have to be. I don't have to be better than I don't have." And again, this saying is going around social media, and I believe 100% in this. The only man who ever wants you to be better than him is your father, because and for selfish reasons. Listen, I'm experiencing that right now. The reason why he wants you to be better than him is the same reason that we know why God wants us to be better.
Ron, I don't want you to think I'm.
All right now, Ron. All right.
I'm not.
Listen, Ron.
One thing I don't come on this show to do is BS nobody. I don't give a damn how good you may sound. There's just certain things that's just not historically true.
Break it down.
Never confuse your kids wanting to be like you with them wanting to dress like you. That is
no. I'm not. That's not what I mean. That's not what I mean. That's not what I mean, like, boy. What I meant by that is that they don't want to dress like you.
Okay.
But what they will know is, I remember my dad being in that fireman uniform. I remember my dad being in that soldier uniform. I remember I remember certain things about how my parents looked. Not that I'm going to use that same fashion, because that fashion may be completely different from them, but it will be something that they want to do because they want to do everything we do. And sometimes people make it seem like they only want to do the negative things that we do. No, they want to do everything. So they want to smoke the cigarettes. They want to wear the uniform you wore and smoke the cigarettes that you wore, because you are everything to what they are. Right. But if you're not there, anybody can come and take that spot and give them anything.
I think, and let me be fair to our kids, our Black children. I think, and this is what gets me hot under the collar, and it's gonna always get me hot under the collar, because I think for the most part, I'm gonna just say it for what it is. I think I'm just gonna say, and I love you. I think, but particularly as adults, particularly Black adults, and particularly male adults, and particularly professional, affluent, politically correct adults, for the most part, we're cowards. And here's why we're cowards. With
Did you just
cowards.
call me a coward without calling me a coward?
Right? Exactly. I want to hear what he got to say. Let's hear what he got to say.
I did say,
Go ahead,
no,
Lightburn. Go ahead.
Johnny, I did say we. I didn't leave myself out of the
I'm
conversation.
messing with you. No, I'm messing.
But
Go ahead.
we're cowards, and here's why. We are here. We are still having this is a very old conversation. I'm 52, so that I can vouch that this conversation is at least 40 plus years old, right? Of trying to establish our right to exist, our right to express ourselves. And we're saying that our young men, right? And just for their, we're still arguing or talking or debating or having a consensus on our young men's rights to be young men. And the LGBTQ community came over and said, hey, they don't have to be young men. And I mean, we put pressure on them, laws about the way they pants and they freaking hoodie. You see, this is what really pissing me off with me. Their pants and their hoodie and where they should wear this and wear that. And they ain't getting no pushback, none for wearing dresses, none for identifying as women, none. That makes us as men pure cowards. And I'm calling us cowards. If our men, our boys, cannot have the right to look like a particular group of boys, you understand? But they have right and more right to look like women and not a particular group of boys. And I don't supposed to have a problem with it. And I got to get in your chest with this one because I'm like, hey, what kind of place are we talking from? We're talking, we sounding good, but we're not a sound good.
So like,
and I'm gonna tell you something, the LGBTQ community really exposed our manhood. Not that I'm against it. They fought what they're about. They didn't define themselves. They say, we come in many shapes and sizes, and they embrace and affirm that. As they're pushing their laws to embrace and affirm that. We just thought being a man and a male is one thing. And what happened with that is we lost it. Because we thought it was one thing when it was a variety of things that we should have embraced and cultivated. That's why manhood is in danger right now. So we're gonna talk, let's talk. And when boys ain't got a place to belong, they will find somewhere to belong. Ergo, when you talk about missing child, whether they're missing in gangs, whether they're missing in trafficking, whether they're missing in any disenfranchised environment that would embrace them because we just was too politically correct not to embrace them. That's the problem.
Okay.
But I think it's so important that I just want to say real quick that I think that's why it's so important that we have males, Black males in elementary schools, okay? Because not only, even if you have a father figure at home, you need to be able to come to a place where there's a certain objective to be obtained and see a Black male just telling you what to do, telling you how to achieve a goal. We don't need coddling. We don't need nurturing. You know, we got that for kindergarten, the third grade, that is so important. By the time kids in the third grade, you already set about what you're going to do in life. For the most part, in terms of your behavior, they need to see a person in authority that can give them an example to be someone that they want to be like. And that's really, and you do never see that. You never see that in elementary school.
Very rarely.
Lightburn. You brought up, you obviously we talk about missing children or missing children, and that's a big topic. But you brought up something that's important. We talk about stereotyping. We talk about a male dressing or looking a certain way, and the society accepts that behavior. Style.
They don't accept it. They don't believe they accept it. They don't accept it.
But they what?
They cowards. Just like they do not. They are also product of the environment. Listen, they do not accept it because every moment when that person walks away or whatever, they saying something about it. They refuse to confront it. They criticize instead of confront.
Hey.
Okay, point taken.
Hey.
So let's go there. So like he's going deep. So
listen,
we know,
hold on. Let me say this, Ron, just to support what Lightborn is saying, because I believe this, and I was thinking this earlier. If every one of these boys decided to wear dresses to school, right? If they wore dress at school, not one administrator, not one teacher, not one person say one goddamn thing to them. Not one. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. You know,
I
they
would.
won't say nothing.
Yeah,
Yeah,
why?
Johnny has sent him home. Johnny has sent him home.
Right there, right?
Yeah, Johnny
I
a
would
private.
say so.
Johnny have
Johnny,
his
you a
own
private
school,
school.
so there you go.
He got his own goddamn school. Listen, them motherfuckers-
You better
listen.
call your mama.
But Johnny also know he'll catch hell too.
But see, I could then at that moment, Lightburn, say, you can go somewhere else that we more than willing to accept you wearing a dress, but you're not gonna wear it here. Period.
But the
That's culture.
truth is, they not listen. Here's the problem, Johnny. It's not true. They won't accept them. You know why? Because they won't accept these guys, these kids wanting to wear hoodies. So they're not gonna accept them. They just gonna pretend because they don't want
Okay, I got you.
liability, lawsuits. They don't want any straps against their principalship. They want to just say
Got you.
and be comfortable not to stand up and say, listen, y'all not wearing these dresses because you're just not gonna wear them. But guess what? As I seen very clearly in the school I'm at, they don't enforce the dress code the same per the races. And I say it every time. I say it openly to the students. It don't matter if I say something to the administrators because they don't give two hot dogs about any. Who they care about me? That first of all they believe I am is some goddamn poor dude who probably just out here substituting. They don't really know who I am. They don't know nothing. It's like the opportunity to be like the undercover boss type of thing with them. Cause they that's how they look at me sometimes. That's how they, this guy, oh, hey, David or whatever. And it's cool. That's cool. But the kids in my class know how much knowledge I drop on them.
Gotcha.
All the kids. Because again, at this school I'm at, this school ain't just black and white. This is University of Bannatyne school. So half of the people there don't even speak English.
Got it.
Okay. So now when we talking about what people wear, what they don't wear, y'all ain't telling the Muslim girls, the most of the Muslim girls that had those thing, had their jobs on and all that. You're not telling them that they can't wear that on their head, they can't do this. So what if one of the boys told you, hey man, I got this on because I'm doing whatever? Because everything is I'm gonna keep it 100. Everything is scared with being discriminatory, but nobody have a problem with being racist.
Oh, wow, Ron, you had to go there, Ron. You had to. But
I'm just saying, they got no problem with being discriminatory.
Correct.
They will not be discriminatory, but they will be racist. And you can see it crystal clear because that's the way I see it. It's not because of the person's race. To me, I see. But then again, I'm probably coming off of watching the Negro Book. And so I'm probably not the best person to be talking about this right now. If you don't know, check that movie out, the Book of Negroes. Check that out.
Yeah.
It'll inspire you.
So
Good book.
So it's clear to say, if you go to prison, you lose some of those rights.
What right? What right you lose?
The right to dress.
No, you don't.
The right to dress.
No.
The right to drop pants.
Have you been in the prison?
Yeah,
No,
you don't know about that. They definitely
they don't lose.
LGBTQ. They actually they started putting trans men in women prisons. It came back to bite them though, because guy got like 2 of the women pregnant or something. Right. You understand? And so you can say what they want to say, and this is what I'm like, man, I have to give pushback. And guess what? I'm gonna have to use my LGBTQ brothers and sisters examples. You understand? Those are nothing but examples, which makes me, because I'm like, hey, either 2 things. I'm gonna either be empowered or ashamed of myself. And I damn sure ain't in no business again being ashamed of myself. So I'm gonna be empowered by what they're doing to exert my right to be who I need to be. You understand? At the time I need to be it. And I think too many times we try to put adult responsibilities on our children. So we'll say things like stuff that don't really belong to children, like what kind of jobs they gonna get? I'm like, they 10. And so we have to put things in perspectives and say, you know what? When did our children actually get a chance to be children? And that's what happened as you brought up Trayvon Martin, and I know Sabrina and Tracy very well, situation. The fact that they didn't even have Trayvon Martin as a boy. They had him as a man fighting with another man.
Right.
They immediately made this black boy, who was a boy, a man. And this is why this is how you get a not guilty verdict, because I'm gonna have to speak the wrong point. And then again, systemic racism very pervasive. I can't act like it don't exist, because even after we overcome and conquer racism, we still gonna have to deal with the sexism and the classism that's going on in this country. And so, I mean, we got to have the total justice that's going on. So you ain't gonna never be finished fighting. We're gonna leave here fighting, and not just for racism. I have to be on 3 battlefields at all times. I ain't got to tell you, Johnny, because I'm pretty sure you're a lawyer, you know. But anybody who care, and that's a just person, you're on 3 battlefields at any given time.
Sure are. Listen, this has been a very interesting discussion, because at the end of the day, we are literally walking and technically missing. Everything y'all just talked about was our children missing, whether they're missing in the way they look from other people or even from us, as our community looks upon them, because there's many people in our community who will look upon our children with those hoodies and say that's wrong. They shouldn't wear that. But we don't understand that they desire to not be seen, which is why they wear the hoodies. But in wearing the same hoodies that they hope would cloak them from society, it actually even shows them even more and points them out even clearer. So their understanding of their desire isn't being matched by their attempts with their clothing. So as Ron said, when we ask them why they wear it, do we then share with them, Ron, because I appreciate you saying what you did, do you then share with them how it actually points them out even more?
Well, and I did, because I also pointed out to them that it was a criminalization of them. It's a criminalization of us as a people. Because why is it that the boy, the Caucasian boy at Harvard can walk with run all he want down the street with a hoodie on?
Gotcha.
But these kids in the cold class can't wear a hoodie. They can't wear a hoodie to school, and it's because you have in your mind that we are criminals.
Whether it has nothing to do with the hoodie, but the color of the person wearing the hoodie.
Right. Exactly.
Right.
That's right.
Right.
So again, that's where because we understand that, gentlemen. Because it's clear to us that is the scenario. How then do we help our children end up not missing? Whether it be because somebody decides to take their life, or somebody decides to take their, for lack of a better term, their manhood in that moment.
I'm going to put something out real quick. A quick golden nugget. The first thing you need to tell your child, and this is for everyone on the program and the whole world, you got to tell your child he or she is of value.
Right.
Because remember, if we talk about emancipate from mental slavery, if your child...
All right, Bob Marley. Go ahead.
There we go. If we go out into the world, and we go out in the world and we think we are inferior, not matching, comparing, that child is going to grow with that mindset. So the first thing, you are just as valuable as any other child on this earth. And that way, when you go out in the world, you can feel, you can grow, you can pass you have the most self-esteem, the most vigor, and most ability to want to do more and be a part of the society. You heard what Ron said. The child want to hide, because I teach too, and I said to the kids, that hoodie is going to make you don't drink no water. You're going to get dehydrated and probably die. But Ron, open up a big mix right here. Oh, well, kids who get dehydrated. Okay, I'm just put that out there. Hey,
I'm not disagreeing with that, but you went way to the left with them dying. But go ahead.
It'll kill a few kids off.
Exactly. Again, kids, we must put value in our children, because as long as, even for me as an African American, I had to get myself out of the mindset of comparing, because we live in a society where, you know, that person lives in that neighborhood, I live in this neighborhood. We have to make ourselves of value and say, guess what, we're going to do this despite of the challenges, despite of the negativism that we have, negativity that is cast upon us. As I always say, we have to fight back, or advocate back, if you want to use that. I don't like the word fight, everybody.
Well, I'm gonna give you a great solution, because this just came to my mind, and I almost forgot about this. So this is not my story. This is actually Congresswoman Frederica Wilson's story, because I was at her dad's funeral. She's a sweetheart. She was always good to me. She's like one of my mentors.
Y'all see how Lightburn be dropping names?
But it's true.
Wait, what's going on here?
Well, go ahead, Lightburn. Go ahead.
And so at her dad's funeral at the memorial, she said this. She said, you know, she always wear a hat, so she's well known. That's her trademark, her hats. She's the only woman in Congress that'll be on the floor, the only woman with a hat on. That's her trademark. And so at her dad's funeral at a memorial, she said that her when she was in school, she used to like to wear this Davy Crockett hat. You know the hat, the Davy Crockett hat, the fuzzy hat with the tail.
Okay.
And so she would go to school every day with this Davy Crockett hat with the tail on it. And so the principal of the school told her, listen, you can't come back to school tomorrow wearing that hat unless you bring your parents. And so she went home and she told her dad, you know what? They said I can't come back to school because they say my hat is a problem. The dad went to the school, came to the school with her. So he sat down and he said, okay, what's the problem with the hat? And they said, well, the hat is a distraction to the kids, and she's the only one that comes with it on. And we don't want, just different scenarios on why they felt she shouldn't wear the hat. The daddy listened to him. And you know what the dad asked? And this is back to LJ's point. You know what the dad asked? They said, he said, does she do what she's supposed to do in class? They said, yes. They said, does she make decent grade? He said, yes. They said, yes. He said, okay, then y'all shouldn't have no problem with the hat. Because what he did was, and this is back to even on Rohan's point, he showed them and he negotiated, talking about advocating ain't nothing but negotiation. He showed them the asset she was to that school. You understand? And until we learn the asset that we are to society, we'll never stop being the adversary to it. And so what that man did, not the mama, that man showed her the type of asset she was to that school. And that lady went from a little girl wearing a Davy Crockett hat in a segregated school to the U.S. Congress of the United States.
Yes, sir.
That's my story. And guess what? That's not only the story I function in, that's the spirit I function in. And so I impart that spirit in every young man and everybody watching. Man, you have a God-given right to be who God called and put you here to be. The world needs it. That's the only way you're going to be able to save and help this world. That's it. I don't like to be on soapboxes. I hate soapboxes.
Well, hey, you did that thing right there. Thank you for that story, because it does help me to have a better understanding. And I guess I've never had an understanding. I just know this world is crazy that we live in, gentlemen. And I've just seen how our children are placed in a box of expectation, generally from a negative perspective, and end up missing because of the way they look. And whether that's with the hoodie, with the crazy hair, with whatever it may be, I just know that this society we live in, and it takes our children, takes the way they present themselves to the world and uses it against them, even though everybody else can move in that manner. Right. So my thing is always, how do we then help our kids not end up missing? And like I said, the various forms of missing, whether that's missing in our own neighborhood, missing in our schools, missing because they unfortunately somebody took their life too early, whatever that may be. How do we end up preventing them from ending up missing?
Well, one of the things is that we see with a lot of, we see this with a lot of, I would even say Afrocentric charter schools, and what they end up doing. They set the culture, and the kids appreciate the culture. And the culture ain't just for the kids. The culture for the goddamn principal, all the way down to the goddamn custodian. So when you make a culture, see, you don't put people in a prison. See, the education system, and if you go to the all-white school around the corner from this school, with nothing but them go there, they wear whatever the fuck they want to wear, however they want to wear, and they do whatever they want to do.
True.
So why is it then when it's too many brown people and black people at the school, you got all these rules and regulations? Because that, again, to me, is that racism and stereotypical putting our kids in a stereotypical box, making us what they believe that they want us to be.
Okay.
They listen, imagine this, and I'm giving you a great example. You would rather argue about a goddamn hoodie instead of arguing about should this person have to do their goddamn work.
I hear you on that.
And that's where my problem comes. My problem is I care about what are they learning? What's their data learning? But then here it is. Here I am, just a lonely, no-name sub who coming in and telling kids that, hey, I'm a substitute. This is what we do. I'm not your substitute because I'm an educator. I don't know nothing about no substitute. I'm an educator no matter where I go.
Yeah.
I might be a temporary educator, but I ain't no sub. I ain't with that. You don't eat me with garlic and honey and vinegar on top.
And you ain't below nobody. You ain't
Right.
below. Definitely not no below nobody.
Right. And so what happens is I say, we're going to do this. I'm going to teach you the way I learned to teach. I'm not gonna give you a handout and you just turn it back into me and you do whatever the hell you want in this classroom. No, what you're gonna do is I'm going to do it, but I do it in reverse. What I'm going to do is I'm going to give you the work to practice to see what you already know and let you work on that assignment. Then we're going to grade it so you can see how this operates. Then I'm going to teach it to you again. Because now I'm going to then test you on what I retaught. So you started with the knowledge you already had. Then we evaluate the knowledge that you had. Then I teach you based on what you didn't have. Now you get assessed by what you already knew and what I gave you. Now that's just doing sub. That's me doing some sub work stuff I brought in myself. That ain't in a curriculum plan or how they teach, because most of the stuff the teaching they doing at the school, obviously, to me is prepared for testing.
Correct.
That our kids have no. What a testing mean for them? The most test they probably gonna take is a pregnancy test, HIV test. Okay, in the future, that's not important to, like I was showing kids how to do checks. Right? Kids say, wow, I never even thought that I didn't even know it. I said, so what you do if a debit card run out? How you even keep a track of your debit card? Because the debit card is a check card. So how do you keep a track if you got money to even pull out and do this? You don't do those things. But again, we talking about what's important. See, I know what's important for what I feel important for students is the things that I would want to know when I was in school. Well, I got most of them. Let me go back, because our education system, it might have been slow, but it was on time. It might have been segregated, but it was right.
I hear that.
Might not have had no books like the kids. The kids don't got goddamn books. We might have had books. These kids today don't got no goddamn books, and they integrated in the school. So what difference? Look,
and they don't want no books.
Right. Well, here's the great thing. Here is what you don't do. The rule is, you can't have phones out. You got the phones out. Fuck that. Every assignment I give them, they got to use their phone to do it.
Oh.
We don't got no dictionaries. You got a goddamn Google on your phone. You got internet. You need to do all these assignments with. Oh, how do I figure that out? You got a phone, and you'll be amazed how many of the students have not thought about using that. And you're talking about 10th, 11th grade. They ain't even thought about and these kind of things are where our kids end up missing in society later, because they're not getting those essential things, not because they don't want it. It's because the people in charge of giving it to them don't give a fuck about it.
For them to think. Exactly.
The system is, and I always wanted to use this word because I heard somebody use it before. The system is antiquated. I always wanted to say that. The system is antiquated. See, listen. You said when we was growing up. The thing about when we was growing up, we had a village, so which means we simply had each other. Now, with that having each other, if the community was strong and truthfully, and you have to look at different nuances that contributes to what's going on now, the community wasn't sold out. The community was strong, and so we still had, and I wouldn't say the remnants, but we still had Renaissance in Harlem as a resource. We still had what was going on in Liberty City and all the historically black community as a resource. Those communities were factual and actual, and most importantly, equitable resources. So you didn't see whole families living on the street. And so when you give that example of Maslow experience or historical experience of Maslow theory, Well, if your community is sold out, your infrastructure is gone. I don't expect my kids to function. I mean, because our kids are in the same condition their communities in. It's right on time. If we're gonna do the math, I'm like, hey,
Right.
you don't, most of your communities across the country.
Absolutely.
And so how you gonna blame your children? No, blame your community, blame your politicians, blame your leaders. And you put that blame square on their head and chop their head off if you have to, because that's where it's at. You have less homeowners, less Black homeowners.
Right.
I'm talking about after segregation, 50 years after. That means you owned more homes during segregation than you did after segregation. Something is dysfunctional about that, and it ain't your children. And so we're gonna talk. Let's put the blame square where it belongs. It's those millions of Negroes we had, those Negro leaders we hired. We have more Negro representation ever, and less land ownership. That's the dysfunction. You don't own no infrastructure, which means you don't have no footing. But you want to say, oh, our kids should do better. How? Your community ain't doing better. Your culture ain't doing better. God damn it, your people ain't doing better. But yet, we want to be like, oh, we want to put one Negro in office and say that justify the progress of every Negro? I don't think so. That's the reality of it. And so I would never watch people put the blame for societal or Black problems at the feet of poor people and their children. I don't think so. Put it square down. All them Negroes we voted in that sold us out. Say that.
And they sometimes are missing, like these children. And we say all of that to wrap this up. It's 8:30 p.m. here on a lovely Tuesday evening. Dr. Ron Osborne.
Welcome back, Jack.
This man that came back. This man that came back and has already jumped right back into closing shit out of.
That's right.
Ain't that how that go?
What a great message tonight, Brother Osborne. Great talk, Brother Rohan, Brother Elder Thomas. Making sure that we stay on time and we get those lovely viewers to understand a chance to share this good message tonight. Missing children and the various ways that they are missing in our communities. We want to thank the lonely sub, Dr. Ron C. Osborne, for leading us.
The lonely sub.
Brother Lightborn for his inspirational and what's the other word I want to look for? Passionate conversation and his ways for always looking out for our kids. Brother Rohan for his interesting topic to bring up, LJ and Brother Thomas for their awesome wisdom and knowledge on their many seasoned years on this earth. Thank you for sharing, my brothers. And to those brothers who did not get the chance to really say anything because Lionel took up all their time. Next time. We'll definitely let you see next time.
We can thank them for listening.
What you say? What you say, Lionel? What you say?
Them for listening.
Yeah,
let me thank them for listening. Thank y'all for listening.
Thank you for listening.
Thank you for listening.
Thank y'all for listening.
You gotta live it.
Thank you for
fantastic. So, Father, with that being said, Father, will you repeat after me? I am.
I am.
I am.
I am.
I am a man of honor.
I am a man of honor.
I am.
I am.
I am. I am a man of courage.
I am
a man of courage.
I say, fathers, I am.
I am.
I am.
I am.
I am a man of respect.
I am
a man of respect.
Come on now, y'all know better than that. I said I am.
I am.
Say that
I am.
You are.
Say that we are.
We are.
Championship
Fathers.
Yes, sir.
Oh yeah, Elder Thomas, coming for you, LJ.
GHA, GHA,
Yes. And as we close out, I already know what next week topic is. I normally know. We will be talking about next week paternity deaths, prenatal death, prenatal deaths.
Oh,
losing the opportunity of losing our mother of our child, or even losing the child
child.
or losing both.
Yeah.
How do we handle it and what do we do as fathers with that? So that I'm coming up with a catchy title for that. But again, you can definitely join us tomorrow night if you just want to join in. We on the Zoom. You can check on down below at the link. We will be there 6:30 B square, and we'll be having some real a lot more intense conversation than this. You know, not made for TV, but made for men talking and fathers talking and iron and sharpening iron in ways that we don't want to do in public, but we can always do in private. With that being said, I want to thank everybody for joining us, and we'll see you here next week on the Fatherhood Think Tank.
Right.
All right, brothers.
Peace,
All right,
brother.
man.
All right.
Y'all take care. Great seeing
Stay
you.
Have a
strong,
good one.
brothers.
Thank you
God
very much.
bless.
Absolutely.
Y'all be
All right.
blessed.